Megan hadn't been this excited about a date in years. Josh was charming, confident, and seemed genuinely interested in her life as a preschool teacher. After 2 wonderful dates, he suggested dinner at his apartment, saying he wanted to show off his cooking skills. Megan was hesitant at first, but his playful persistence and the promise of homemade lasagna won her over. The evening was perfect, or so it seemed. Over candlelight and wine, they laughed, shared stories, and indulged in Josh's delicious cooking. By the time dessert was finished, Megan felt a warm buzz from both the wine and Josh's attention. When he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't hesitate. They ended up in his bedroom, wrapped in each other's arms. The passion felt electric, and for the first time in a long time, Megan let herself be swept away. Josh was attentive and affectionate, making her feel like the center of the universe. As they lay tangled in the sheets afterward, Megan smiled, thinking that maybe she'd finally found someone who could be more than just a fleeting connection. But as she lay there, her gaze began to wander around the room, and that's when the doubts started creeping in. At first, it was small things: a stuffed animal perched on the armchair, a few children's books stacked on the nightstand. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had nieces or nephews who stayed over. But then her eyes landed on a pair of tiny sneakers by the closet door and a child-sized jacket hanging beside an adult's. Megan's chest tightened. She glanced at Josh, who was dozing peacefully beside her, and tried to shake off the uneasy feeling. Maybe he really did have family who visited often. Maybe she was overthinking it. But as she walked to the bathroom to freshen up, the unsettling details continued to mount. The hallway was decorated with hand-drawn pictures taped to the walls, crayon scrawls of animals, rainbows, and smiling stick figures. In the bathroom, a toothbrush with cartoon characters on it rested beside 2 adult ones. There was even a bottle of bubble bath shaped like a dolphin on the edge of the tub. It wasn't just a home where kids occasionally visited. This was a family home. When Megan returned to bed, Josh stirred and smiled sleepily. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice soft. Megan forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine," she said, though her mind was racing. The next morning, as Josh cooked breakfast, Megan found herself scrutinizing everything around her. The fridge was covered in magnets shaped like animals and a few stray post-it notes, one of which read, "Noah's soccer game, 4 p.m., in neat handwriting. Toys were scattered in a corner of the living room, and the coffee table was cluttered with coloring books and crayons. "Do you have kids in your family who visit often?" Megan asked casually as Josh flipped pancakes. Josh froze for a fraction of a second before recovering. "Yeah, my nephew is over a lot," he said, avoiding her eyes. "I'm really close with my sister's family." Megan nodded, but her unease was growing. She left shortly after breakfast, thanking Josh for the night, but feeling a knot of doubt in her stomach. Something didn't add up. Megan tried to put the strange experience out of her mind, throwing herself into her work at the preschool. But the following week, the truth came crashing down in the most unexpected way. It was time for Noah's annual parent-teacher conference. Megan adored Noah. He was one of her brightest and most curious students, and she'd always enjoyed her conversations with his mom, Sophie. When Sophie arrived for the meeting, Megan greeted her warmly, ready to discuss Noah's progress. "I'm so glad you could make it, Sophie," Megan said. "Noah's been doing wonderfully." "Thanks so much, Miss Parker," Sophie replied with a smile. "And this time, my husband could join us. He's been dying to meet you." Before Megan could respond, Sophie turned and gestured for someone to step into the room. Megan's heart sank as Josh walked in, his face a mask of dread. Megan's throat went dry as Josh extended his hand awkwardly. Hi, Miss Parker," he said, his voice barely audible. Megan shook his hand, her grip firmer than necessary. "Nice to meet you, Josh," she said, her tone icy but professional. Sophie beamed, oblivious to the tension. "Josh works so much, but he's always asking about Noah's progress. I'm glad he could finally join us." The conference was a disaster. Megan struggled to focus on Noah's achievements, her mind racing with memories of that night in Josh's bed. Josh avoided her gaze entirely, fidgeting with his hands, while Sophie happily discussed Noah's love for dinosaurs and finger painting. At one point, Sophie playfully nudged Josh. "See? I told you Miss Parker is amazing. Noah talks about her constantly." Josh forced a weak smile, looking like he wanted to crawl under the table. Megan, desperate to end the meeting, wrapped things up quickly and excused herself with a forced smile. Later that evening, Megan received a text from Josh. "Please don't say anything to Sophie. I'm begging you. I made a mistake, and I'm so sorry." Megan stared at the message, anger and disbelief bubbling inside her. She deleted it without replying, knowing she couldn't keep this secret. Sophie didn't deserve this betrayal, and neither did Noah. The next day, Megan scheduled a meeting with her supervisor to report the situation. She wasn't sure what would come of it, but she knew one thing for certain. She would never let herself be caught in a situation like this again. As for Josh, Megan heard through the grapevine that his marriage didn't survive the fallout. It was a painful lesson for everyone involved, and one Megan vowed never to repeat.